Okay, so this shot I was going to bring into Blender per my usual workflow, but it occurred to me that since my characters are all contained in single layers quite nicely, let's use this shot as an opportunity to sort of test our workflow with Tahoma. Well, what does that look like? Well, again, we've got these characters that are ready to go, so let's rock and roll. So I'm going to go Control C in Krita, jump over to Tahoma, and just grab a level and hit Control V, and so Tahoma quite nicely gives us the ability to just cut and paste. Actually, let's do this. Let's go to center. Let's put her center of gravity like where her, oh, I don't know, her pubic area, or down somewhat lower than her belly button would go, because then she's going to scale kind of in the manner that we would want. Okay, so this is going to be in front, so we'll put that there. And in Krita, we actually have a keyframe on, excuse me, frame 18. So fine. Let's just go down to here, and then on frame 18, we do need to cut again. Control C, Control V. After the dude shows up, she actually turns her attention back to, I'm sorry, this actually needs to be on this side. Turns her attention back to Tianara. So let's got a little bit of a scale issue here, so we'll zip this up, and I'm going to turn on the guides too. Tahoma has a nice rule of thirds available to us, so just by scaling that layer, everything kind of does what we expect. So now this, let's see. Oh yeah, she turns to Bowder, right? He shows up and then she turns back to him, or to Tianara. So okay, so it's, I've heard enough. Bowder, ma'am. Okay, cool. That's it. So yeah, this is way, way faster than in Blender, just because we can do the cutting and pasting instead of having to map images to planes. So now Tianara is going to be obviously in front, and this is about as simple as it gets because she doesn't have any keys. So we just go Control C, Control V again, and oops, just for, I'm sorry, I want to grab my center. Just to sort of keep things sensible, I'm going to go ahead and anchor her in the most obvious and natural place. And I'm going to put her on the rule of thirds. I don't think I'm going to shrink her because she does need to be a little bit larger than Mom. So I've heard enough. Bowder. Milady. Okay, right there. Stop. Oops. Okay. So right here, I feel like this would happen just a little too quickly. So she turns, calls for Bowder. He comes in. Yeah, that's better. Take Tianara to the wagon. So now I want to make one slight adjustment on Tianara in her position. I think we'll kind of do like we did with the mom. So this is actually a good thing to be paying attention to at times. It's kind of where people are falling on the rule of thirds. The mother is, you could argue that really she should be there, but I'm putting her offset a little bit this way, and then TNR offset a little bit this way to the right. And then when Bowder shows up, he's actually almost on the rule of thirds, but he's kind of anchored to the left of the guide, so not too bad. Okay, so now we need to deal with lip sync, so I figured we'll just go ahead and do it here in Tahoma. I was tempted to say Open Tunes. Obviously this is for all practical purposes Open Tunes. But okay, so I'm not gonna fiddle too much. This is 8 frames a second, so I'll give her 1 second. And then we'll just turn on one onion skin just so I can kind of see where the previous mouth was. Okay, so here we're going to say I slightly narrower and slightly taller. I've heard enough. Oops. Okay, so we're gonna have a little bit of a glitch here. Let's just bring this back. Let's only give her half a second. If you hit Control X, the X sheet level gets rippled, meaning that the keyframes get moved up to fill in the empty space. Whereas if you were to hit delete, they would not. And we'll just lighten this to the point where it looks about right. And then here we want to go back to frame the first drawing, which I'm hitting the Q key. Okay. One thing I need to fix in Tahoma is that the venerable hotkey for switching between keyframes, which is left or less than sign versus greater than sign, does not seem to work in Tahoma. I don't know why. I'm not sure why Jeremy decided to yank that hotkey. I assume that was something that happened in the development. Okay, so she's going to be speaking fairly rapidly here. So take let's see, if I put this here, will this get filled in? Let's find out. And we'll go a couple keys higher for our onion skin. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of do anime style voice or lip sync. So take DNR to the wagon. Whoops. Let's see how that feels. Yeah, that'll work. And then this would be shot or drawing number 4, I believe. Okay. And this is going to be wrong, actually. She doesn't say this until he shows up, so this is incorrect. This should be like this. He's got to actually say his line. Okay, so this could actually be a problem. She needs to say her line before she turns her head back, so alright, let's give that a crack and see how that feels. I've heard enough. Okay, yeah, so she needs to say, Bowder, take TNR to the wagons. Okay, not too bad. So here we need to have her say his name, so let's do Bowder. Oh, that's the wrong one. Duh, obviously. So let's hit Control X. Let's see if I got that right. Okay. So apparently zooming and playing animation at the same time don't work that well. Okay, back to the top. Okay, and then once she turns her head back here, okay, so I'm gonna take, gosh, let's do 2 frames here, and then this obviously needs to be back to that, and I think we're good to go. So we'll cut that out, stretch this down to the bottom, and now let's deal with Bowder's lip sync. Alright, so it's going to be nothing more than ma le let's just go back to this one. And I'll cut it out. I think when he's not talking, we don't actually need to see his mouth. So with that, let's fill it. Fill it. Okay. Let's dial down the opacity here as well. It can be a little darker than what Mom's is. But believe it or not, I think, oops. Believe it or not, I think we've got the animation done. Now, obviously, we could add secondary animation with the plastic tool to the mother. Okay. Not bad. Except that her lip sync shouldn't really start quite so early. And thus, I would also say that just to make our lives easier, let's move this down to here. And so we'll just end it at 90. I think that's a good number. Good place to stop. So save all. Yeah. Okay. Alright, question. Should we animate Bowder to give him a nod? Well, it essentially costs us nothing to try, so let's just rock and roll and do it. So we create a mesh. Doesn't quite need to be that fine. We're just adding secondary animation so he can nod his head. Okay, so now you can see kind of what the problem is that he is not matched up to the position. So it kind of shows you OpenTunes is calculating the animation keys before processing the plastic tool. So that's a little problematic. Adds a definite clunk factor. The solution, I think, we will try something here. Let's do it this way. I'm going to hit the B key and go like this and just create a blank level. And then I'm going to grab all these keys. So I'm hitting Shift, Control C, and I'm hoping, yes. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll hit Control S again. And let's delete those keys. and that should cause the plastic tool to operate correctly. And then once we get the secondary animation correct, we will simply make in the schematic. Let me show the schematic here. In the schematic, what we will do is simply make column 2, actually not column 2, we'll make column 1 mesh, which is the plastic tool. We will make that this a child of column 1, meaning we'll pipe it in here like this. And what that does is it causes all of the animation keys to be applied to him after the plastic tool. So now this may turn out to be not that useful. We'll find out. We'll hit the X key again, and what we're going to do now is build the skeleton, and all I'm trying to do is create a situation where he has the ability to nod. So again, not sure if this is going to work. The reason it's not going to work, or might not, is because of the following. OpenToonz isn't the smartest ever when it comes to the influence of the plastic tool. So what I'm doing essentially right here is I'm creating a cage, if you will, that effectively causes the plastic tool to influence these other parts of the mesh. Thus, when I bend him at the neck by turning this one and giving him the nod, it should not cause other parts of his body to bend or twist or whatever in ways that we really don't prefer. Okay, so I'm going to have him just do this, like so. And let's see how that looks. Okay, this takes too long. And this should be maybe 1 frame less, I'm thinking. I'll give that a crack, and we can turn this level off at this point. Sorry guys. I wanted to turn this off. Okay, that's interesting. Let's grab this layer. Oh, it must be that if the plastic tool level is turned off, you can still see the bones when it's selected, except I just switched back and they didn't reappear. So I would personally call that a bug, because it looks to me like it appeared and then disappeared. So now we got to make one tiny change, by the way. Wait a second. What just happened there? Okay. I was thinking TNR wasn't high enough, but actually she's just, I was just seeing him sticking out underneath her, so. I wonder about one thing. What if there was a little more of a bow? I'm thinking, let's do this. Let's go to build skeleton. Let's add another node right here. So we can actually bend him a little bit. Okay. Turn this off, and again, as you see, well, okay, now that's interesting. That means some of the under the hood, some things that are happening in OpenToonz or Tahoma are actually probably operating on a timer, which means you turn the level off, and then the mesh disappeared, but it kind of takes a second for the bones to disappear. So yeah, like I said, it's not the kind of bug that's gonna harm your workflow too much, but it does not look like probably the desired behavior in the application. Okay, and by the way, I see another glitch. Okay, so let's go back to the schematic. You'll notice that his mouth kind of flopped out of shape when he said, what does he say? He says, "Milady." Okay, this is column 4, and so what we need to do is we need to also have column 4 parented to the plastic tool layer level. Okay, but that means that it requires an offset. You can see the mouth's in the wrong place. So therefore, I have to say I kind of made a mistake here, but let's see what happens. I'm going to have to move this up here so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so yeah, we basically need to create an offset here. It doesn't matter whether we parent it to the column 2 or whether we parent it to the plastic tool. So what that means is we need to hit the animate tool and just move this over to where it belongs, and then not put any other keys in there, and then that'll just cause his mouth to stay put. Okay, only other thing that concerns me is back here. He's a little high up. So I'm just going to go ahead and correct for that one frame at a time. No big deal. It's a bit of a hassle, but I suspect the world will actually keep on turning. It's okay from there. Yep, it's okay from there. Lady, take. Okay, I want a slightly longer pause, which again means this needs to be here. Lady, take TNR to the wagons. Okay. Alright, and then he responded a little fast, I would say. So let's grab these keys for his nod, and let's push him down a bit. I've heard enough, Bowder. Milady, take TNR to the wagons. Okay, so there's one thing I notice. It appears to me that the influence of the plastic tool here is creating a little bit of a slight corruption there. So that works. We're good. Alright, so here by going Alt up arrow, oops, strike that. I guess that's not what I want to do. I want to be on the next one down. I want to be on 91 and go up arrow twice. So that takes out the cells across the entire X sheet and modifies, if you clean it out, it actually modifies the endpoint. So it put my endpoint exactly where I want it to be. And now, I guess just for the heck of it, let's give this a crack. We're going to go, let's do a raster level, and just going to stretch this down. Okay, so what I'm doing here is going to be put in a background. So I need to look at my show and kind of see from the standpoint if I can sort of ferret out here where she's standing. And she walks over to where the blind guy is seated. So I want to keep this pretty simple. And this may not work the best ever, but let's go ahead and fill that in. And then let's just adjust from there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, this is only called Mel Skin. It doesn't need to have a name. It makes no sense for it to have a name. Okay. So let's see. I would like to actually have this be sort of a airbrush, I think. I think that's the one that seems to behave pretty much the way one expects. an airbrush to behave. Let's give it a crack and see. So what I'm going to do is grab this color with the R key to sample the color, and then I'm just going to go a little darker, back to the B key, and then I just want to kind of ease in a gradient here. So that's the basic purpose of what I'm fiddling around with here, is just to put this gradient in. And I would say let's go even a little richer and darker. So what you see here is on a tunes, or on a raster level, which is essentially just a plain old pixel grid for good old-fashioned painting. You can see that the you can just keep changing colors. So these palette entries or colors or brushes, however you really want to look at it, they're not indexed. So unlike a vector level or a smart raster level, what OpenTunes calls a tunes raster level, which is what these levels that I used for the lip sync, you notice that after the fact I could turn down the alpha value and the color becomes more transparent. With a raster level you can't do that. You're just painting. Okay, so I'm gonna just grab this color and, well, no I'm not. I'm gonna go back to this, and I think what I want to do is grab kind of a brownish color. I don't want it to be too saturated, something like that. And I'm gonna give myself a really big generous brush here. Yeah, that's fine. So I'm gonna go boom across like that. And I want to keep this really simplified. So I make no claims about any of this being amazing art. What I'm really trying to do is quite deliberately keep it very, very simplified. You know, it's a cartoon. We'll just paint that in, add a little detail there that for no particular reason. And then I'm going to sample this. I'm actually going to switch to this brush. And we want the size to be back to 0, so just normal size. Yep, and then I'm going to let's sample the sky and say, well, okay, let's get close to white, not quite white. And smack in some cloud action here in the background. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and add a touch of actual white. Cool. Now, R key. And then what I want to do is just kind of a ground. I want that to be a little more tan, I think. Yeah, that's better. And let's make our brush a little bigger so we can kind of be a little more aggressive with it. Okay. And then as we got closer to those guys we saw in earlier shots, well, you guys can't see it, but that we do have some suggestion of grass here. And I'm using the paintbrush specifically because the fact that it is naturally sort of mixing in and out with the other colors gives it a nice bit of variation that I think looks pretty good. I do want to have a little bit of some darker stuff here down at the bottom, and let's just put in some hints of some patches of grass. Just some hints. I'm back in Bob Ross mode, aren't I? Talking like, oh, happy little clouds. Wah, wah, wah. Okay. I think that works. I think it works. Now, if I wanted to take it to the next level, I'd probably go very large here. And actually, that's probably too large. Let's go about like that. Yeah. Okay. Ooh. Okay. I guess I do want to go very large. Let's zoom out. That's too much. It's pretty hard to dial it in, but we can. I don't want to use a shade of blue because we are going to be going over top of the entire background. Let's do it this way. Insert, hit the B key, and then let's go with the airbrush again right here. And I don't even know what the color is. I assume black, but yeah, let's just do this on a smart raster level. Okay, and that way we can just change the tonality of it and kind of dial it in like so. Just a slight vignetting, that's all that I wanted. Just a little bit of vignetting. Okay, not too shabby. This therefore should be stretched down to frame 90 so it covers the entire shot. And folks, how did we do on time? 31 minutes, so we're right at that half-hour mark. Very good. Let's hit rewind, watch it play one time, and I think we might be done. I'm sure there'll be some small changes in post to adjust to this, but basically I'll take it. So that's it. There will be more later.